All right, folks, welcome back to another episode. I wanted to welcome my next guest. He's an MC songwriter from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He uses his life experience to address the complexities of life, such as things like mental health, love, and grief through his music. He aims to bring hope to both others and himself while at the same time honoring and pushing the boundaries of hip hop as an art form. What is good? I wanted to welcome the Taste of Bomb into the show. How are you, brother?
Yeah, I'm doing really well. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Saturday afternoon. So I appreciate you taking time out of your weekend to do
Yeah,
this, to talk about music and life. I love it, man. I appreciate it.
yeah,
All
of
right.
course, of course.
Yeah. Hey, before we go into your new album, Relocating Grains of Sands, let's do some history. That is one of my favorite things to do. But tell me before we start where you were born, where did you grow up, and where do you hang your hat these days?
Yeah, so I was born like in the suburbs of Philadelphia, and I spent a lot of my formative years, back and forth between the suburbs and the actual city. And and I live now in Philadelphia, so I've been kind of like in a 20-mile radius of Philadelphia and in Philadelphia my whole life, you know. So
Nice.
yeah.
Well, hey, what was your first exposure to music? What kind of music were your parents pumping back in the day? What's your earliest recollection of that?
Actually, which is I feel like so weird for picking up music is my parents weren't super into music,
Uh,
actually. Like my mom at one point was kind of like into like Madonna and stuff, and
yeah,
then just like whenever pop thing was on the radio, she would like get into like the silly songs of the day or whatever. I remember like a phase when, I guess I was like maybe like I think maybe like 12 or so when this came out, but she was super into Shaggy. It wasn't me.
oh,
And just like goofy stuff. And like my dad kind of likes like Elton John and Billy Joel and that kind of like singer songwritery piano kind of thing. And
yeah,
they weren't like super, super into music. I think me getting into it just had a lot to do with like just like I don't know, like I think like the radio and
yeah,
MTV and all those things. Yeah.
yeah. It's kind of interesting, right? And so at some point, you get introduced to rap music, right? So that's what you do.
Yeah,
And so, yeah, hey, I love Madonna. I had my Shaggy days too, and it was good. It
yeah.
was good stuff, man. 90s, 80s
Yeah.
music. But yeah, man. So, what was the first rap song that you remember hearing that kind of captivated your attention and got you really interested?
I can't think of a one specific song, but I think
Yeah.
the whole thing that I gravitated towards when I was like in my formative years and stuff is like so like I talk a lot about this a lot in my music. Like I have like an anxiety disorder and stuff like that, and I wasn't really sure what that meant when I was a little kid. I wasn't really
Yeah.
sure. I didn't really have the words for it. So the closest emotion I think I would gravitate towards was like anger because that's the
Okay.
only thing that like made sense. So like I gravitated towards a lot of just like angry music
Interesting.
in general to because it felt comforting, it felt heard, I guess,
Yeah.
and on the radio at that time, in the mid 90s, late 90s and stuff was a lot of like DMX and Exhibit.
Yeah.
It's so hard to think of like, but like, like DMX and Eminem and whatever, and yeah, like Exhibit and Ice Cube. All these people were on pop radio right next to Britney Spears. Like it's
Yeah.
hard to think about now, but
Yeah.
like I think like yeah, just like that kind of stuff. I think at first I really attached to, and just feeling something that later I would discover was anxiety, but at the time I wasn't really sure what it was,
Yeah.
and just something didn't feel right. And I think like yeah, music like DMX and stuff like it, just the energy of it capsulated something that like resonated with me. I think at that time, So yeah,
Yeah. I think that makes sense because a lot of it was kind of angry at that time, right?
yeah,
And I could see how one could find personal connection to it. And then, I mean, just because you take it in like that doesn't mean you have to output it like that, right? And then I saw,
yeah, yeah, for
which I
sure.
like about your music, it's really like therapy driven for me, right? Like, oh man,
Mhm.
yeah, I get it. that song about getting better. Yeah, I love it. That older, getting older doesn't have to be bad, and yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So I love that. It's a great explanation. It makes sense to me.
yeah, yeah.
But what was that your introduction to hip hop culture? Was it rap music or breakdancing, graffiti, DJing, any of that
Oh,
that capture your attention, or was it just
oh,
strictly the rap?
at first, well, like that was like going on when I was, like 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, or whatever. But like, yeah, later on when I was a teenager, like 14, 15 or whatever, I was a graffiti writer for a little while.
Oh wow.
Um,
Oh
yeah. And that's kind of where my name originally comes from. Like, I think I've attached different meanings to it over the years, but
yeah.
like, originally it was just because like in graffiti culture often you would pick something with like 5 letters so you could
Yep.
have like the symmetry of it all. So I picked like vomit, and then I would like hand throw the taste of on top of it and block
Yeah.
out vomit. And then I would like draw like flowers and stuff in between. I
That's
just
sick.
like the juxtaposition of whatever. So I was really into graffiti writing, just like I don't know. I'm sure this is past the statute of limitations by now.
Yeah. I'd say
Whatever.
we're safe.
Allegedly, I may or may not have just like hit abandoned trains and just like that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. Practicing like in the woods, like
Yeah.
in the train yards and stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was really into that. And then the people that I was doing it with, I think, to be honest, like if I'm just being raw honest, they were way better than me. So I think that like I kind of fell out of it because I'm just like I
Yeah.
really enjoyed it. But at one point, I became more of like the lookout person and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Like I got demoted a little bit, to be honest. But yeah, I was super into graffiti and stuff when I was, like yeah, like 14, 15, 16 or whatever. And I never really got into like breaking or anything like that. I'm a
Yeah.
terrible dancer.
Same
But
here.
yeah, fair enough, fair enough. Solidarity.
Yeah.
Bad dancer solidarity. But yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, mostly yeah, graffiti at one point, but yeah, mostly like rapping. Yeah.
Yeah, so were you the guy that came up with the logo? Was that tagging yours for the logo
Yeah.
that you used? That's really good. I like the script on that.
The one that I did, yeah, yeah. That I mean that's just like Photoshop and stuff. But I took
Yeah.
2 or 3 different fonts and manipulated it and
Okay.
stuff. And like in that O where you see like the quotation mark or whatever, that's a quotation mark that I dropped in the
Oh,
middle of
nice.
it.
It's pretty
So I
cool.
just like, manipulated different things and yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it
Twisted up
makes
things.
for a cool t-shirt for sure.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
but
yeah.
hey, super cool, man. So yeah, a lot of good rap going on in the 90s. And so do you hey, whatever number of years later, go back to any of those rappers and do you see anybody in particular as a critical rapper or a particular album that you just kind of honor and say, hey, this is one of the major albums that shaped me as an MC?
Yeah. So I think that came a little bit later on because I
Yeah.
didn't like I was like kind of rapping, but I didn't start like rapping until like maybe like '06 or so. And
Okay.
that's probably so I'm in my mid 30s, so I was in maybe like sophomore in high school or something like 2005 2006.
Yeah.
So at that time I was super into a lot of the Def Jux, Rhyme Sayers,
Yeah.
Stones Throw stuff. So a lot of that is what I contribute my beginnings to, I guess. A
Okay.
lot of like the Canox. I was super obsessed with everything LP, like Van
Yeah.
Damme, like I loved
Right.
all that stuff. And you know, but yeah, so I think Labor Days, ASAP Rock was very huge for me
Oh
starting
yeah.
out. Canox Cold Vein, like I was saying, was super big for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Food, MF Doom and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Oh
all that
yeah.
stuff was still happening. Yeah, that whole like early mid 2000s like underground stuff was like huge for me. That kind of made
That
me
was
be
major.
like, I always loved like rap music and stuff, but that made me be like, I want to do this. Yeah.
Yeah, that's super awesome. And so I mean, like, hey, you open the door and you get introduced to rap music, and then you learn about the other rap that's going on in the West Coast, down south. And so, do you think that you kind of favored or tailored your style to that East Coast sound, or was that something that you
Yeah.
didn't consider? Like as you go into it, like I know I remember I did. It's like, oh, I want to be like these guys, Smith and West, and want to be able to do back and forth. That was
Mm.
that in your mind too as well, or were you just writing to write?
No, I think I was just writing to write, but I did
Cool.
really gravitate towards the East Coast thing. I do,
Yeah.
especially in the beginning, was gravitating towards like the energy of that, like,
Okay.
and yeah, because I feel like it's more like, yeah, not, I don't want to say like aggressive, but it's more like
Yeah.
it's like going where like West Coast is very like laid back, and
Yeah.
I also too, like, I don't want to make it seem like I was like just into this stuff, because I was also very early on like bumping Nelly and Ludacris
Yeah.
and all. Love the
Absolutely. Oh,
too.
oh yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love
and
it
just
all.
I feel like that's so underrated. People like like Nelly's, like maybe his lyrics or whatever, but like his flow is crazy. Like
Yeah.
how he weaves in and out like country grammar and stuff. Yeah, I
I
love all that
agree.
stuff. I cannot listen to Ride With Me without it being like at like 10, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think I was mixing a lot of that kind of stuff. I did like a lot of consistent like I feel like, yeah, things like Ludacris and Nelly are also pretty like packed in, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like dense lyrically and stuff, like, just in terms of like it, like the structure of the rhyme and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think when I was first getting into it, I liked that, like, how much can we pack into one bar? Like,
Right.
let's
Right.
get it
Right.
all in, like
Like
get it.
Aesop Rock, you can do that really well.
Yeah, yeah. So I was super into all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I would probably say, yeah, Can Ox and Labor
Yeah.
Days and Van Dam. And yeah, those early like
Yeah.
Def Jux was huge for me.
Yeah. But I love that you bring up the point about liking other stuff like Nelly, Ludacris, all the commercial stuff. Yeah, I think that's important too. There's a lot of different styles, and I just appreciate the art in its many forms. So, yeah, I love folks who aren't rap snobs and can
Yeah,
enjoy
yeah.
West Coast, East Coast. So that was great. Very refreshing to hear.
I also love that like era of like Cameron and Fabulous and stuff, where they're
Yeah.
like using the vocal snippet as like, like songs like Free, the one into the third, three into the free. Like I love stuff like that, and like, hey,
Yeah.
nah, what's up? Like, I
Hmm.
love all those things too.
Yeah, yeah. And I noticed that you have an interesting palette of music too, right? So I listened to your album and it
Mhm.
had, a little bit of a rock sound to it on some of the
Yeah, yeah,
songs. And then there's one piece, and we'll talk about in a little bit later, is more kind of like a spoken word type piece to it. So
yeah.
I could tell that you were influenced by many genres. And so, do you have other genres that you listen to outside of rap? Is there any other sort of music you enjoy? Any particular artist?
Yeah. So currently, I love storytelling and human connection, and
Yeah.
that's a lot of what I gravitate towards now, whether it's
Yeah.
in rap. So I actually just recently did a different podcast a couple months ago that
Okay.
we were supposed to pick two opposite albums and compare them and say how they're totally different genres, but they're kind of like the same. So I did
Oh.
Armin Hammer Haram and Phoebe Bridgers Punisher,
Oh
who
wow.
is like, yeah, are you familiar with Phoebe Bridgers? Or
Yes.
yeah. So I love like, yeah, like personal songwriting and stuff like that. So I love the whole Phoebe Bridgers, like Julian Baker stuff,
Yeah.
Bright Eyes. Like I love Death Cab for Cutie, and I love the rap stuff of that. Like I love, like Woods and Open Mike Eagle, and like I'm super into
Oh
like
nice.
the whole storytelling and word
Yeah.
aspect of it. So I love that
Sure.
across all genres and everything.
Ah, very cool. Well, hey, you mentioned too that at some point you start writing, and so do you recall the moment that you decided to start, that you started writing? Do you remember putting a pen to paper and just like what motivated you to do that?
Yeah, I mean, like, so my journey kind of has a lot of stops and goes.
Yeah.
When I first started out, it was writing and stuff, but we were like, I was in a group and we were obsessed with LP. So it was very that, like, I was, 17, 16 years old. So I was just trying to say cerebellum in every song for
Yeah,
zero
yeah.
reason. Like just using Mario coins as snare drums. Like it was a mess, and yeah, I don't know what we were doing.
Oh man,
And
I remember
then
those days.
I kind of got into like, a little bit of like freestyling. And at
Yeah,
one point, I went through a little battle thing. And then I guess I circled back to like writing around 2011 or 2012, I guess. But I think what really like made me switch into like doing more of what I'm doing now, because
yeah,
in the beginning I was doing very like set up punchline, Little Wayne
yeah,
kind of pun. Like I love like puns are so fun,
yeah,
but like I love. So I was doing a lot of like that thing in the beginning, and then at one point I was kind of like going through a breakup, and at that same time I was kind of discovering like the whole like Mac Miller Earl Sweatshirt stuff, like
oh
like
yeah,
and watching movies and stuff in like
yeah,
2013 or whatever. And I was going through a breakup at the same time, and I was trying because I also like wrote poetry and stuff. So I was like,
yeah,
what if I write like a personal rap song? I was very self conscious of it. I was like, people don't really want to hear that. They just want to
mm,
hear the bars and the silly punchline and the references, and you got to reference a movie so everyone goes, oh, like
right,
and yes. But at one point I was just like, oh, I want to try this, and then like a lot of people came up to me and was just like, that was like beautiful, thank you for
nice,
sharing that, whatever. And that, I think the comfort of also hearing like Earl Sweatshirt, Doris and stuff,
yeah,
like how that album opens up with like my grandma's passing, but I'm too busy trying to get this album cracking to go
yeah,
see her. I apologize. Like, and I was just like,
yeah,
this is great. How is
yeah,
he's just saying this? This is
yeah,
crazy. And I love the vulnerability and realness of
yeah,
it, and just admitting that you have flaws
yeah.
and but trying and whatever. Like that was so beautiful to me. And I think that really inspired me to do what I'm doing now. And that really got me into like writing this kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, I
So
agree. I agree. Like I said, I saw your new album kind of as a diary and just open book into who you are. And
mm.
so it was quite interesting to me because I hear your name and I'm thinking like, oh, he probably does, necro type music.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah, yeah.
wasn't sure, right? So I was like, okay, maybe he does horrorcore rap. And then you sent me the album to check out. So dude, this is dope. Like very conceptual and just
Mm.
open with emotion. So I really like that. Yeah, and I thought that was just really cool. So what I guess what interests me is the story on how you got your name because it's yeah, yeah, it's quite opposite to what I thought. So can you tell me
Yeah,
the
yeah.
story about your MC name?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just like what I was saying before. It was originally just like a graffiti thing, and it was
Hmm.
literally just based on the looks of the letters
Yeah.
and things and the opposition of like I would draw like flowers and butterflies in it, and I just like the contrast of it. And
Yeah.
I was in a group in high school for a little while, and then the other person I was in a group with ended up taking our group name as his
Oh,
solo name.
and what was
And
that?
And then we were called a Delta Orator because
Oh,
again, everything sets with Canox and stuff. So of
yeah.
course it would be called that. But yeah, so I kind of like just needed a name, and I kind of
Okay.
went with that. And then I kind of like very early on, like people championed for me, and I'm very blessed to have kind of support
Yeah.
believing in me before I even believed in myself. And very early on, I was doing bigger shows that I probably shouldn't have been doing, that I probably wasn't ready for yet.
Mm,
But like I was just like, so and so knows me as this, so I can't change it. No, now
yeah.
so and so knows me as this, so I can't change it.
That's right.
But I think later on I assigned different meanings to it, and I
Yeah.
feel like it constantly changes for me. And
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I don't have like such a concrete answer for that. I
No,
think
it's all good. Just make whatever
yeah.
makes sense. So interesting. So are you saying that you did not go through any name changes? That was the only name that you used in your entire musical career.
Yeah, yep.
Nice.
Since
Nice.
I was 16 or whatever,
Great.
besides the group name, but that was like both of us. But yeah,
Ah,
yeah.
very, very cool. Well, you've been doing it for quite some time. What motivates you to do music, and how do you find inspiration to write music?
Hmm. So I think a big thing for me. I spent a lot of time being raised by like my grandparents and stuff. Like also my real parents were in my life too, but you know, I
Yeah.
spent a lot of time with my grandparents, and my one grandmother was super encouraging of anything creative. We were
Nice.
constantly making movies, having our like 90-pound camcorder, like
Yeah.
making like
That's great.
goofy movies and whatever. And I think just like music is a thing that stuck, but I was always like drawing comic books and just
Nice.
being creative and whatever. And music is just kind of the thing that stuck. And I think
Yeah.
because words and stuff are so interesting to me, I think storytelling, human connection, and I think music and writing, you know, really like solidified that feeling for me. And I
Yeah.
think what makes me continue writing is, yeah, just like expression. It's very cathartic for me. It's a therapeutic exercise, and it just like it helps me make sense of what's happening in here when I can write it down and then think about how to say it creatively and reword it. When you think about rewording things, it makes your brain kind of think differently and
Yeah.
see
Great
things in
point.
different ways. And I think that's what is a big inspiration for me writing is, yeah, just processing these thoughts and how can I see this situation in 16 different ways and whatever, you know.
Yeah. Great. Well, hey, let's jump into the album that you recently released, Relocating Grains of Sand, produced by High Keach of the Wave Generators, 14 tracks of dope hip hop, and a bunch of great features. Can you
Yeah.
tell me just the thought process behind putting that album together, how long you were working on it, and what drove
Yeah.
you to put those tracks together?
So what happened was I did a feature for another artist named Air Max in Texas that I actually he's from Texas, but I met him in Maine, which is really weird and crazy. Just like on tour is crazy. You meet like people from all over. But he asked me to be on this joint on one of his upcoming records,
Okay.
and Hype had did the beat for that, and I was like, these drums are crazy.
Yeah.
And I think I just like kind of messaged him just that or whatever. And then I think like a month or two later we met in New York. Me and Height met in New York,
Okay.
and he's just like, yo, like the verse that you did on that Air Max joint was crazy. And then we just
Yeah.
started talking about doing a record together, and then
Nice.
he was starting to produce for a lot of people. And then yeah, he sent me a couple things, and then like we just went through the, you know, then he sent me like his folder, and some things were like picked out of a folder, some
Yeah.
things were curated to me, some things were originally just a small loop that I recorded a demo to that we kind of reworked
Right.
later on. And yeah, I guess the whole process in total was 2 years, but
Oh, wow.
it wasn't constant. It was like we were both working on different things at the time,
Sure.
just doing this on the side. You know, I usually do like two or three records. I'm usually like writing two or three at a time.
Yeah.
So like
I
I'll
know the
bounce back
grind.
and forth, and you know, so all in all it was probably 2 years, but it wasn't
Yeah.
consistently in a row. We were both doing other records and stuff and coming back and forth.
Yeah, I love it. It's a great album that you get your money's worth with 14 tracks. And
Yeah.
I really particularly enjoyed the features from Andrew Blueprint and then Imine. She was really cool too, as well. But I saw the description. You
Yeah,
say
yeah.
the project is a concept piece about time passing in contents and dealing with change and growth. Can you explain a little more on what you mean about that?
Yeah, sure. So I think like, you know, I feel like very much in both like everything, I guess, in my journey with therapy, in my journey in aging, in my journey with music, everything.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm in this weird space that like nobody really talks about. So like like you either talk about this is the beginning, this is before everything happened, or this is after I made it, and this is after everything happened. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And I wanted to really like hone in on that weird time and space of like, I'm in between. I'm not really young, you know, I'm 36 years old. I'm not
yeah,
really young anymore, but I'm not old. And then
yeah.
I music is a little bit more of a hobby. It's it's more than a hobby for me, but it's a little bit less than a career, but I'm on my
Right.
way, you know. And yeah, and same thing with therapy. Like it's just like I'm not. all the way there of where I want to be, but I'm way further than where I started. So I just want to write this record about, yeah, that like in between space, about time passing and yeah, just change and growth and all those kinds of things. And yeah,
Yeah, and I get that. And it's interesting to me that you mentioned that it took you 2 years to put this album because I thought it was very fluid. The sound was very fluid. All the subjects went together real well, just jumped into each other very nicely. So well done. And the
thank you.
beats, yeah, just they were great, man. Again, I love those one-off beats where it had that kind of rock sound, and then some of those that
Mm,
were just snippets where you would do that love track in particular, where kind of sounded like
mm,
more poetry or
yeah,
spoken word
yeah.
to me, which I thought
Mm,
was really cool. And so, and High Peak is he's not from Philadelphia too, is he? Where's he
no,
from?
no. He is mostly from Baltimore. Right now he's in
Yeah,
the Bronx, but yeah,
yeah,
he most of his career he was in Baltimore and like the DMV area.
cool. Hey, tell me which is your favorite track from the album, or which one particularly stands out to you?
That is so tough. I
Yeah,
think I'm
yeah, it's not
still,
fair because it's different moods, right?
yeah, yeah. I think I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah,
Definitely like getting better lyrically felt very good to say. And I think
yeah,
like that was a big shift for me because I think often I talk about depression and stuff in a like, this is really difficult way. Whereas
yeah,
like that song is kind of talking about it in like I'm kind of noticing that I'm getting somewhere with this, and like a
yeah,
lot of that was really powerful with me. And then Tales of an Unnamed Protagonist was crazy because like
yeah.
I got to do that with Blueprint, who was like huge for me growing
Yep,
up. And I the Soul Position 8 Million Stories record that was like that was
yeah,
in my CD player forever. So like the way that we were able to link up and how he just picks up where I drop. So
yeah,
like I drop it and he just picks up the rhyme and like
yeah,
the way that flows and like I think like it shows both of our journeys through movement and
yeah,
where we've been and where we're going and and so I love that song a lot. And I also love how the intro came in. So like on that song, I have a bunch of people that I know just being like, I'm so and so age and this is what
yeah.
my life is.
35,
Yeah,
31. Yeah, I
yeah,
do
I'm
jujitsu.
22.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and I had some of my friends' kids do, and yeah, my
yeah,
one friend's kid in the beginning, and she's so adorable, and just being
yeah,
like, "I'm gonna be an artist," and I was like, "This has to be the beginning." I was like, she was not prompted to say any of that. I was just like, "Just say your age and start talking," and she just
yeah,
went on, and it was just something really beautiful, and yeah, I those two, but yeah, I mean, the whole record, I really am proud of this record, and the whole record means something to me.
yeah.
You know yeah, for sure.
As you should be. And so let me start with that song, which Tales of an Unnamed Protagonist featuring Blueprint. I thought the beat was really funky. And I do
Mm,
like how he jumps in right after your verse and no hook. But again, just
yeah,
open book. And so, when we were talking before this, talk to me about your background. And so just I love it. Trust I can rap verses in less than 2 takes. I have a day
yeah,
job
yeah,
where I do manual labor. My friends and family have always been my savior. Let's be honest, I've been feeling kind of stuck out, feeling lost as I search for true love. And again, just some open book diary stuff. You just allowing yourself to be vulnerable for comments and just, open book to the world. I really enjoyed that track. Good.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then same thing with your first track, I really enjoyed, and I just handpicked some tracks to talk to you about, but How to Live Forever, which is something that is always on somebody's mind, but How to Live Forever featuring Andrew, great first track and introduction to your album.
Mm.
How hard was that to pick as the first song of the album? For me, it's always hard to kind of just determine which one I want to use as the opening track to set the theme of the album. Was that a
Yeah, yeah.
difficult process for you?
No, I think so. What I usually do is I'll start on like maybe like 3 or 4 songs, and once I have 3 or 4 songs, I'll kind
Yeah,
of be like, well, what do they have in common? And then I'll make all the rest of the songs fit that theme and concept. And that one kind of just stuck out in the first batch of 3 or 4 songs that I wrote as like, this is clearly what the thesis of the record is
yeah,
about testing. We cannot win this fight against time no matter what
yeah.
we do. We
Oh man.
can prolong it by making art, and this is my art about prolonging my, life or whatever, like
Yeah.
metaphoric life, like,
Yeah, that
and
is a great
yeah.
point. That is a great point. I struggle with that concept and that problem all the time, which is why I
Mm,
find it really fascinating. There's no
yeah,
way
yeah,
to outpace time. And you're right. You mentioned in the song, time is undefeated. It's a much
yeah.
needed quest to check yourself. So I receded, humbled by the sands and the beaches, which I was thinking like sand in the hourglass. And I was like, man, this is really dope. And so,
Thank
yeah, and
you.
I've come to that same conclusion that I will never beat life, but I can extend my stay through music. And so I just really connected with that song. Is that
Mm, thank you so much.
what the title of the album is? That where it comes from? Just that train of thought. Can you talk to me
Yeah,
about
yeah.
that?
It was definitely heavily based on that first song. And
Yeah,
yeah, it's about, I mean, because it's like also, I reference a couple times in the record about the tides and moving with the
yeah,
tides and whatever. So it has to do with movement. And yeah, it could be an hourglass relocating grains of sand, which is time passing, but also movement and direction in the same
yeah,
way that tides and sand push out and
yeah.
whatever. So it's kind of like a play on both of those things.
Man, brilliant. So well done on the first song. I thought that was as I listened to the music, very appropriate, tied in nicely. So props to you for that.
Yeah.
Other songs I really enjoyed was track four, Learning, probably one of my
Mm,
favorite songs. Again, just the recognition that I'm not perfect. Be patient with me. I'm still learning how to talk, still looking to apply everything I've been taught. Be patient with me. I'm
mm,
still learning how to walk. So when I do, I like this part. It's clear that I walk the walk, right? So,
mm.
yeah, great. Talk to me a little bit about that song.
Yeah. So a lot of that was like, I think like about being in relationships and like both people struggling with like different like mental illness things
Mhm.
and just like trying to navigate anxiety and depression in relationships and just being like, hey, like, not I love that this feeling of like we're both pushing each other to be better things.
Yeah,
And I think too, just like, yeah, and like the beginning, I kind of like start out just talking about some of the flaws or whatever, and just admit. I think there's something so beautiful about admitting your flaws, and but I'm working on it, and we're trying, and whatever,
yeah,
and there's just something really beautiful about that. So a lot of that was like inspired about this relationship that I was in at the time, and just about being like, yeah, like we're not perfect, and this is not gonna be whatever,
yeah,
but I want to try to be better for me, for you. Like, I
yeah.
don't know if that makes any sense. And like
Absolutely.
her doing the same thing, and there's a lot of lines about that too. Like, like I could see how me, putting in the work, like, you know what I mean, and just like how that allows you a safe space to allows you a safe space to process through your hurt, and like just how we're like influencing each other to just be better for
Yeah,
both ourselves and each other and things.
yeah. Well done. Very good song. And so the other two that I chose, one was the Perfect Imperfection song. That one too.
Mm,
Not too many drums attached to that, but I thought that was a little
yeah.
nice spoken work piece that you do and use it to address love. I thought that was a little different than most of the tracks on this album. But what motivated that different type of delivery for that
So
song?
actually, I wrote three different songs to the original version of that loop. So there
Uh,
was all kinds of different things going on.
oh
But
wow,
I eventually like landed on that because it is different, and I always want to
yeah,
do like some kind of like movement thing with my
yeah,
records and do something different where it's like not all this thing.
yeah,
And I love songs that like stick to this like structure and theme. Like I love,
yeah.
like that. And like, so just starting out with love is this, love is that,
Yeah,
love is this, love is
that's
that.
right.
And like it challenges you to write in a certain way. So a
Yeah,
little bit with like a writing challenge, but also just what I felt like was the progression of the story. It's not like a story, but like the
yeah,
progression of the feelings of the record. I thought that was the next logical thing to tackle. And yeah.
Oh, very, very cool. So I think it was a great addition. And yeah, I love just the variety and song choices that you placed on there. So that was really cool. And I thought Learning was going to be my favorite song of the album, but actually, the song that I really, really, really favor now is that Getting Better track that you did with Iman. Yeah,
Yeah,
probably the one I really connected with the most based on theme and lyrics. And I told you
mm,
already that sometimes I struggle with the concept of time. And you mentioned, hey, I used to never want to grow up, but getting older
yeah.
really ain't so bad. I made a few mistakes that I learned from. I think it's better that we can't go back. Focus on things I got control of. Yeah, I let the rest lay the rest in the past, digging through the dirt I had to grow from, but I know it's only getting better. So, yeah, that one I really enjoyed because it's a theme that I play with a lot. But can you
Yeah,
tell me again what motivated that song? And I know that it's a consistent theme, but was there anything special attached to that song?
I think just taking time to, which also I talk about in other tracks too, like I'm trying to
Yeah,
be very conceptual and connect everything, but like just this idea of like accepting your own flowers and giving yourself credit for all the hard work that you've been
yeah,
in. Like there was just certain things that just felt like, I don't know, like I'm not afraid to admit, like I was like crying in the studio sometimes, just like
yeah,
certain things. It's been a decade, over a decade since I last been arrested. I've been beat down, tempted, and tested. Just like that feels so good to say and remind
yeah,
myself. Yeah, like sometimes I feel bad about this life that I was a part of, whatever, but that's not me anymore. And like,
yeah,
it's so beautiful to just recognize that and acknowledge these like little things. Cause like I was
yeah,
going through this time where like, I was feeling really hard on myself and just being like,
yeah,
oh, I haven't really done like real drug, like, heavy drugs in like 13 or whatever years clean. And like, it's just crazy to like think about like, yeah, just about getting better and just
yeah,
acknowledging. And I think like, yeah, that's one of the opening lines and like whatever. It's just like it feels good to say I've been getting better, but even
yeah,
better to feel like I'm really getting better. And that's just something that feels so hard in my chest. So I think just
yeah,
writing that was being surrounded about like, yeah, giving myself props for how much work I've been putting in, just being the person that I want to be and fighting these outside sources of like, you know, the places I come from, and you know what I
yeah,
mean, and just getting out of that and just being like, I'm not really that person, and it feels really good,
yeah,
it's
absolutely.
crazy, yeah,
It was my favorite track on the album, and a good way to round the album out in terms of just in general in terms of like wholeness of an album. I thought that was great. So awesome. Hey, did you do any hard copies of this album? Is it a digital release?
yeah.
What
So
is
right now
the
we
distro
have
coming?
yeah, we have cassette tapes for
Nice.
sale on my Bandcamp page,
Cool.
and they have a little secret track on it, but that's just like
Yeah.
a compilation that like a compilation of different things, and it goes kind of crazy. But yeah, it's on digital and streaming and all that stuff
Cool.
too. But yeah, cassette tapes for sale.
Yeah. Hey, very cool. And hey, I love your website. And I really got stuck on like all the shirts, right?
Oh
So yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So really cool choice of shirts. And that's where I noticed the tag on your photo. So it's cool that you did that manipulation of just some text online. And yeah,
yeah.
the tapes, I saw two tapes on there, but really cool, man. Everybody's got to go check that out. Well, hey, fantastic album. I look forward to just diving into it more, but it was great, man. Listened to it a bunch of times. And I look forward to digging into your catalog. So, hey, man, I'm
Mm.
always curious as somebody who's doing music and adulting, what do you like to do in your free time?
Mm. I do like I was getting into photography for a little bit, like just for
Yeah,
fun, just playing around and taking pictures of, the people in my life and different
yeah,
plants and stuff like that. I love, you know, being outside and going on walks. I love
yeah,
going to the beach and stuff. Like I
yeah,
love all that kind of stuff. I'm super into movies when I have time.
yeah.
So yeah, a little bit of all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah, it's always good for mental health. And you're a quite talented guy when it comes to creativity. I know that you do finished carpentry and you're very good at doing construction type stuff. Yeah, I think you said your family's into it as well, right? They're in woodworking and
Yeah, yeah,
construction. So, a very important skill to have as a person in general, I think. So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So you do all your stuff too at home too, all home improvements. Is that all you?
No, because I live in an apartment and and that's none of my business.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
If I
Fair
did
enough.
own my own home, I would
Yeah,
do it.
yeah. Well, hey, I think that's super cool. Sounds like you've been doing it since you were 14, and just
Yeah,
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 I really appreciate folks with that kind of skills, man. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, cool. Yeah, photography is always awesome too, as well. And what inspired you to do that? Did you have somebody that was doing it already, or just
Yeah,
something that
yeah.
you wanted to try?
Yeah, I think just being around other people that were doing it, and I also
Yeah,
just love photography and arts of all kinds. And I
yeah,
think, yeah, it's just something to fun. I like was really like started to dive into it like during like lockdown stuff because it's like you
yeah,
could just go to the park and walk around,
yeah,
take some photos of flowers and crazy trees and just something to do to get out of the house and whatever.
yeah.
And yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it's super cool. I can always appreciate a good photo. And hey man, I love to watch TV when I can in my very
yeah, yeah,
limited time. But you mentioned to me off screen that you just finished watching Severance, which
yeah.
oh man, I just checked out the trailer to that. That sounds wicked.
Oh,
That
you've never
show.
seen it before?
No, it looks great. Is it only one series or are there a couple series to it?
There's two seasons right now. It just finished the second season, but
Dude,
that's
looks
yeah,
crazy.
it's so fun.
Oh man.
There's so many puzzles and stuff, and if you
Yeah,
like that kind of stuff, if you like Lost kind of genre, whatever,
yeah,
like it's very much in that space.
yeah.
Like wait, what does that mean? Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
And just yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I got to dive into it. So I just checked it out after you mentioned to me, and it looks like a really good show. So I will do that. But you also mentioned to me that you love going to concerts. And so
Yeah.
Philadelphia, I'm sure you got a lot of stuff going on over there. The music scene is always popping. What's the best concert that you've seen live?
Oh, one of the best shows I've seen, I think, was like I really love Ben Kenny, who used to be the guitar player for the
Yeah.
Roots, and then at one point was the bass player in Incubus, but he writes his
Wow.
own music too, and it's kind of like indie rock, but also like R&B and
Wow.
bluesy and stuff, and it's just I don't know, I love it. And then seeing his like solo show and stuff was like amazing.
Nice.
That was a huge one. I have been blessed. He's not really even playing shows anymore, but I was blessed enough to see Aesop Rock. I actually saw
Wow.
Aesop Rock and Inspect a Deck in the same night at two different shows
Whoa.
that were kind of across the street from each other. And
Deck
the
is my
Aesop
favorite guy.
show got done early. So I texted my friend who was booking the Inspect the Deck show, and I was able to like make it in right in time as he was playing. And I was just like, yo, I was like, this is the best.
Yeah. Holy cow.
Hip
Inspector
hop.
Deck's my favorite woo guy.
Yeah, yeah, me too, me too.
Wow. That's awesome. Hey, those are pretty good shows. I don't know if I could top that, but those are great shows. But hey,
Yeah,
man, it was great. And so again, I appreciate your time talking about music and just opening up, yourself to me to some of these questions. And I
yeah,
can't
yeah,
wait to just dive into it much more after this interview. But I always love to close the interview out with just some fun, lighthearted questions. So I'll do that real quick
yeah.
with this first one being, would you rather it be too hot or too cold?
Too hot for sure.
What's that?
Undeniable. Too hot for sure.
All right, yeah, you guys probably get some extreme cold weather out there. So, okay. All right. Dogs or cats?
I think dogs, but I like both, but I'm going
Okay.
dogs.
Do you have pets?
I my roommates do.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Let's see if you are a true Philadelphia head. Favorite rapper from Philadelphia?
Personally, I love probably honestly, I would probably pick Reef, the Lost
Oh,
Cause. I love the Lost
yeah.
Cause so but yeah, Vinny
Ooh,
Paz. Like I
Jedi
love
Mind Tricks.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I would probably pick Yeah, one of them, I would assume.
Yeah, those are good. Yeah, Black Thought, I think is from Philly too, right?
Black. Oh, yeah, yeah. I keep
Uh,
forgetting. I mean, yeah, Black Thought, of course. That was a
yeah,
huge inspiration for this record. I think like Cheat Codes. I was
yeah.
listening to that a
Oh,
lot when I was writing this
yeah,
record.
that was great.
Um, yeah, yeah, I love Black Thought as well.
Yeah, that's a tough question, especially you guys got a good pull. All right, my next one, favorite Will Smith song.
Oh my god! I guess or summertime. I don't
Yeah,
know. Yeah,
hey,
mine
classic.
are summertime.
All right, good one. Hey, I want to visit you in Philadelphia, and I want to have a Philly cheesesteak. Are we having Pat's or Dino's?
They're kind of the same, to be honest. I think like I like the rivalry of it all, and I don't
Yeah,
know. I think it's just fun to be too. It's like yeah, a whole like spectacle thing. There's lights.
yeah,
It's open at 4 a.m. and whatever. I don't know. They're both like,
yeah.
you
I think
know.
I went like long time ago, and I remember one having the whiz. I think it's the cheese sauce on one of them.
Oh yeah,
The other
yeah,
one
yeah,
had the
yeah.
sauce. Yeah, it's pretty cool, but it was fun. I had to
They
have
kind
one
of
from
all
each.
do that.
Oh, do
Yeah,
they? Okay, that was good.
yeah,
I need
yeah.
one. So, all right, here's your next one. Favorite Boys to Men song.
Oh, the end of the road.
Oh, that's good.
I
That's a
think.
good.
I
That's a good one. Yeah,
think.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
I like that one. That's a great song.
Yeah, I have a weird story. Well, I don't know if anybody who's watching this would know, but there used to be this MTV show that was just like a silly, like fake documentary kind of thing. It was called My Life is Liz in like maybe
Uh,
2010 or whatever. It was
uh,
just like a goofy little show that was like a fake documentary thing or whatever. But we
uh,
were at Bamboozle in 2010, which was like this festival in North Jersey, and we met that girl from that show and we watched Boys to Men set with her. It was like the most random thing ever.
hey, that sounds fun. Oh
Yeah.
man. All right. Hey, last two questions for you. If you were a superhero, what would your superpower be?
I've thought about this a lot deeply, so this is going to be crazy, but I would like to be able to refill liquids automatically. Like
Oh,
whether that's like, gas tanks in your car, your
oh,
drink, like, just automatically be able to refill liquids. And I feel like I could also use that to destroy my enemies and just like fill their blood up more and have them like or something. Like, I
dude,
don't know. I think that would be my superpower.
I like it, man. Hey, bright and dark, man. That's cool. But yeah, I like that. To refill your gas tank. That'd be great.
Yeah.
So awesome. All right, here's my final one for you. If you could have a meal with anyone, past or present, dead or alive, who would it be?
Ooh. That is tough.
Yeah.
Um, damn. Shit. I don't know. Maybe Shaq? Maybe
Oh, sure.
Shaq?
Yeah. Hey, hey, good.
Yeah.
At least we know he's buying or he's paying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Oh, hey,
know.
that's a good one. All right. Well, hey, good. Hey, thank you. This interview was mad fun. Again, I appreciate your time going into your new release, and again, just being an open book with me and just sharing your history and all the things that you're up to. But now I want to turn the floor over to you. Any final words before we close this interview?
Yeah, no, just that, if you enjoy emotionally driven indie rap, check out my record. Yeah, thetasteofvomit.com,
Mhm.
thetasteofvomit.bandcamp.com, but links are all, in together. But
Yeah.
yeah, albums out, High Keach.
Yep.
Yeah, working on a tour later on in the Northeast and stuff. But all that will be announced later when I finalize it. But yeah, probably a fall Northeast thing going on. But yeah,
Love it.
keep up with my website or Instagram. Yep.
All right, man. Well, hey, take care. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I look forward to
Thank
sharing
you.
this interview. Take care.
Yeah, thank you, man. Appreciate it.